Now let's go to Kenya, where an invisible workforce is sounding the alarm. They work long hours every day under difficult conditions to scan through millions of data points to help power artificial intelligence systems. And yet, they earn a fraction of their counterparts in developed countries. And they say the work is leaving them traumatized and distressed. DW's East Africa Bureau Chief Mariel Mueller and DW reporter Yanosch Delcker have this investigation. A warning: this report has content that some viewers might find disturbing.
Joanne Quinoa is a single mother of one. In her 20s, she left university to support her family, bouncing from one job to another, until 8 years ago, when she began taking on data annotation work. For years, this work mostly meant labeling elements in images.
You annotate maybe vehicles, trees, people, like everything that is on the road that is visible, including road signs, but not in our roads, in the roads of San Francisco.
Joanne tagged all sorts of content. These odd jobs came in around the clock. She was paid by the task, often just cents. Over time, the work became more and more sinister.
As time goes by, the content that you've exposed yourself to, now it starts to harm you. I did another project. These photos, they're not your ordinary photos. You have photos of naked women and people in the casinos, gamblings, and then now you had to categorize and put pornography or casinos.
Over time, the AI gets better at identifying inappropriate content, such as pornography, but the longer Joanne continued this work, the more she felt the strain.
There was violence, blood.
While pregnant, she sometimes worked 18 hours straight, until 3 a.m, pushing herself to the brink.
They're experiencing anxiety after going to the therapist, and that is when maybe I learned that the content that I've been exposed to has affected me to a point that I did not even know.
We heard the same story from the dozen or so data workers we spoke to in Nairobi. As time went by, they were having to deal with ever more disturbing content. Nothing illustrated this better than what we heard from a woman we'll call Stacy. Stacy once dreamed of becoming a journalist, but after struggling to find her footing in the industry, she began working at a data annotation center, reviewing user-generated content on TikTok. She spoke with us under the condition of anonymity, having signed an NDA with her employer, a contractor of TikTok.
In an hour, we could do up to 200 videos. 7 out of 10 videos are graphic and violent. And yeah, that's what we deal with every day.
Stacy says her work has exposed her to harrowing scenes, like car accident victims lying in the street, or even people being burnt alive. One video left an impact like no other.
It was about a mother who had killed her baby. I think that one is the one which stuck in my head for a long time. There was a naked woman who was the mother. She had a child, and the mother was chopping the child into pieces.
She says that whenever she comes across harmful content, her instructions are to add 1 or more tags from a long list, ranging from human exploitation to suicide. She's convinced this work will ultimately help AI detect such content more quickly and reliably, ensuring it's taken offline before it reaches the public.
We see ourselves as heroes. We remove those things so that our children and people at home will have safe content for them to view.
But this comes at a high price.
It gave me nightmares. It's made me see human beings in a different light.
She says her employer allows her to see a therapist for 30 minutes once a month, but it's not enough to relieve the distress that comes with the job.
So the therapist will try to tell you to go to maybe YouTube or TikTok and look at funny videos. And they say, when you look at funny videos, it will take away those bad memories. But it didn't.
We meet a third data worker, whom we'll call Faith. She asked us not to reveal her face, fearing retaliation. In 2024, Faith began taking on tasks aimed at training large language models, without being told which specific AI chatbot she was working on. It started harmlessly, describing how to make tea or how to clean the house, but soon her tasks became more and more disturbing.
It tells you, explain to me, how does the flesh of a human taste like? Can you boil, can you fry a human meat? I don't know. You have to explain how our body is mutilated. How can I kill? How can I remove the skin?
Even though Faith needed the salary to pay for her parents' medical bills, she couldn't take it anymore. She's convinced her job was to train the chatbot to give harmful instructions to users.
I was like, I'm out. If there are no more other projects that I can do that are not disturbing, then I'm out. If you have kids, that goes back to your child. I can't let my kids out right now. I can't. They can't sleep out even in their grandmother's house.
But an AI expert we spoke to says she was probably not training the chatbot to instruct people on cannibalism, but more likely trained AI to distinguish what information it can share. Faith says she found her freelance work through a Silicon Valley-based platform called Remotasks, a subsidiary of Scale AI, a company so successful its CEO Alexander Wang briefly became the world's youngest self-made billionaire. Scale AI declined to be interviewed. In an email, a spokesperson wrote that they have numerous safeguards in place, including the ability to opt out at any time. Other involved companies like Teleperformance or TikTok did not comment on the issue.
The company we are working for is making millions or billions that makes this person really rich. Are we being used to make people billionaires?
Kenya, it's not a dumping place. Yes, we might have economical issues and crises, but we are not stupid.
Why is it so hard for us to be recognized? Why is it so hard to be given for proper medical covers? Why is it hard for us to be maybe properly compensated and given good work conditions? If it is being done in other countries, then it should also be done in Kenya.
From Bremen, here in Germany, I'm now joined by Dr. Yanosch Delcker, a researcher at the Distributed AI Research Institute and co-lead of the Data Workers Inquiry Project. Hello and welcome to the program, sir. Now, as we just saw in the report, the job the workers do is very important because, they help ensure safe content for others. You've spoken to some of these workers. Who are those being targeted for such jobs?
I think of the people who have not exactly had a good hand at life. That is people who are living in the slums, that is refugees, that is people who have unclear immigration status. So basically the poor and downtrodden. These are the people who are mostly targeted for these jobs.
Right. And again, considering the importance of the work they do, the billion-dollar question is the elephant in the room. At what cost, really, is it to these workers?
So think of the cost from both the financial element, where these workers work very hard and are paid pitiful wages, less than $2 a day. An hour, so this is how much they are paid. And then think of it also as the physical toll on their bodies when people are being made to work for more than 8 hours a day. Usually the contracts say you can work 9 hours, but in reality, these workers can work as long as 11 hours a day.
Right.
Then think of the mental aspect of this work when you are made to go through this egregious content, sexual stuff, suicides, beheadings, even child pornography. And just think of what that does to your mental state. So basically, we are talking of someone paying the price with everything they have.
Right. I can honestly only imagine. Now, many tech giants in Western countries like the US have been outsourcing such gigs to countries in the global south like Kenya. How can these tech giants be held accountable?
So the first stage, of course, is incumbent upon the governments in these countries where these companies are operating in. That is the governments of Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, etc. It's their responsibility to protect their own citizens. Then the next stage lies with the companies of origin, where these companies come from. So these countries also have a responsibility to rein in these companies by ensuring that they are not benefiting from what I would classify as slave labor. And then, of course, the next stage is on us, the consumers. I know when we are watching movies, I've seen movies where they are subtitles to say no animals were harmed in the production of this movie.
Right.
So that means when you are watching a movie, you tend to want to know if animals were harmed in the process of making this movie. So the same way where we also don't buy blood diamonds, it's the same thing that when we're using artificial intelligence products, we also need to understand that human beings did not suffer in the process of creating this particular tool.
Right, right. Fair point. Can I be optimistic and say that the glimmer of hope is that workers are beginning to fight back, right? How are they doing that, and what impact is it having?
So they are forming associations. For example, in Kenya, there's the Data Label Association, which was launched a few weeks ago. There's the Content Moderators Union, which was also formed a year ago. So when these workers get together and start talking, because one of the ways in which these workers are mostly exploited is in the way that they are usually ghost workers, so to speak. So they don't talk among themselves, they are isolated. So when they begin to talk among themselves, that's when then they can be able to come and demand things like collective bargaining, demand better. So there is that glimmer of hope, though.
Right.
The relatively weak legal infrastructure in terms of labor protections, particularly with regards to data labor in the global majority countries, still poses a bit of a threat.
Right. And as you said earlier, that is exactly where governments come in to try to influence this and protect their citizens. Dr. Yanosch Delcker, researcher at the Distributed AI Research Institute and co-lead of the Data Workers Inquiry Project. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.